All right, I think we have most folks in, so we will kick things off. Everyone should be able to see my screen. And my name is Amy Green. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing here with Cirrus Insight, and I'm joined by Ryan. If you want to wave and say hello, Ryan. Ryan is on the marketing team as well, and he plays an integral role in helping us actually set the tools up that we're going to be going through today for our own internal use cases. So he'll walk through that with the team, how Cirrus Insight uses Cirrus Insight. Very exciting. And then I'm going to walk through a specific use case actually from a customer and show you how they have implemented Smart Scheduler onto their website and helping to connect their financial advisors with clients. So today we're going to be going through from click to calendar. So turning the highest intent moments on the buyer journey into booked attributed pipeline and meetings for your team. And so before we jump into the specifics today, I do want to go through a couple of housekeeping items before we jump in. One is that we welcome questions at any point through today's session. There is a Q&A section of the webinar platform that you can utilize to ask any questions throughout the entire session. Ryan and I will be taking a look at those and we can answer them on the fly, or we'll have a Q&A portion at the end as well. We are recording today's session. We will make sure that not only those that attended, but all of the folks who registered get a link to that recording. You should get that via email from us, probably about 24 hours after the live event, if not sooner than that. Also, just a quick looking forward statement. We want you to make your buying purchases decisions based on what is available today from our product. We will be talking about some forward-looking roadmap products in today's presentation as well. Those will be noted and flagged as such, and we'll mention them as well, but just wanted to call that out to the group today. And so with that, I'm going to go to our next slide and jump into some of the content for today. So why would a team need a solution like Smart Scheduler? What problems are we solving with this functionality? The prospect clicks book a meeting on your website, right? It's a clear call to action that you want those visitors to take into account. And those are really your highest intent visitors, right? Those that are clicking on your call to actions, those that are wanting to take action on that. And you really don't want to waste those, right? Those are the individuals that you want to keep on your website. You want them to convert and do the things that you're asking them to do. And so what we're seeing with Smart Scheduler is that it provides an 87% lift in conversion rates when automated lead distribution is set up to be able to book those meetings. So you're looking at having a higher conversion rate for those calls to actions. You're also looking at being able to save 5.2 hours per user per month with the automated scheduling, as well as 80% of adopters see an increase in leads generated and total conversions. So the numbers really speak in terms of how this can help you to get more of those high intent visitors converted from your website into meetings with your team. So I'm going to go through a couple of different use cases that we're going to cover in the session today. And there are 3 of those use cases that you see framed here. One is the marketing use case, which Ryan will walk us through how we're using that today internally as a team to turn those web traffic visitors into booked pipeline. We're also going to look at an example from one of our customers today in terms of how they are connecting clients and doing some matching and logic in that process on their website. And then we're also going to wrap up to talk a little bit more about once those meetings get booked, how can Cirrus help in some functionality to actually help your users prep for those meetings, help to transcribe meetings that are happening, to be able to draft follow-up tasks and emails, and be able to do some retro coaching on those meetings as well. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ryan. He's going to take us through our internal use case and show you how we are using Cirrus today. Ryan?
Yeah, thanks, Amy. So I'm happy to share with you guys how we currently use Cirrus today. But I think the first step to just talk through is why we started using our own solution. We originally had a form on our website. So when someone would go to schedule a demo, you'd submit the HubSpot form, and then you'd have to have somebody reach out to the person that submitted the form. then there's some back and forth that goes on, and then eventually they submit their information somewhere to book that meeting. So you're repeating steps by having to fill out information twice. There's time that goes on, back and forth that goes on, and it's just not the best process, right? So once we realized that there was that gap there, we realized we could just use our own solution to fill this gap. So what you're trying to do here is essentially reduce the amount of delay that's happening. Once a form gets submitted, you don't have to wait. And because in that waiting period, you might go and talk to a competitor, talk to somebody else. You might lose interest. If somebody's taking a long time to get back to you to have that first initial conversation, you might not want to have that anymore if 24 hours or longer go by. And then just from a marketing operations standpoint, where I live, attribution can be tricky. Somebody submits the form and marketing can get credit for that. But then when sales follows up with the person and gets the meeting actually booked in this process, they're getting the credit for the meeting booked. So it can be tricky to properly attribute UTMs and just data and everything to understand where pipeline is being created from. So what I'm going to show you guys momentarily is how we use our own solution on our website to simplify this process. Some of you might be familiar with this if you've been to our site recently or have just played around with it. So for reference, you come to our homepage and you have this schedule demo call to action. It's also in the top right and on other pages. And this is where we added that link, which we'll click on in momentarily. But first, for a quick pause, if I hover over it, and you can see in the bottom left of my screen, it shows UTM parameters. These will be important at the very end to help with the attribution and understand where your meetings are coming from. So in this example, you can see maybe in the bottom left that the content says homepage new, the source says the website, and we'll circle back at the end as well. But somebody would click on that call to action and come to the scheduling page. And here we currently have this drop down to select employee size, but you could use whatever you want, really. You could use industry, you could use location, you could use a custom property, whatever fits your needs, you could add in here. You could add multiple fields, whatever you prefer. Once the visitor goes in and selects it, quickly runs through availability and routes to these pill options. And you could have one rep assigned, you could have multiple based on the criteria. And then once you go ahead and select the time that works for you, it'll find your match. And then you just enter your criteria here. You can have optional survey questions for how did you find us? What are you looking to solve? Anything like that. But in this process, you're only entering in your information at one time. You don't have to enter it in a form and then later, again, when you're booking said meeting, it's just a lot more of a straightforward process. And then at the very end, once you enter that in and you hit schedule, the event is actually booked. You get an invite to add it to your calendar, and the event is created automatically in Salesforce with the attribution data that we were talking about. And I will circle back and show you what that comes through. So just so you have an idea of what to expect. So once that meeting is booked, using webhook capabilities, you would get this information coming over. As we showed earlier, the source is the website, the campaign is a demo request, the content would be the page. You can set more than that by also doing the channel, but you're getting that attribution data that you might not have been receiving before. And it's just a better scheduling experience in general. You're reducing the friction and there's no extra lag step or follow-up required. It's just a lot of a more smooth and straightforward process. So yeah, just in general, we've seen a big lift in our qualified conversions coming through by implementing our own solution. So with that being said, that's our first use case, and I'll pass back to you, Amy.
Thank you so much. Back to the next use case that we're going to cover. So I mentioned this is an actual customer of Cirrus that has Smart Scheduler implemented on their website today. They are one of the country's largest advisory firms. They have over 5,000 financial advisors across the US that they are trying to match up based upon a number of different criterias. It could be based upon region, their area of specialty. Maybe they have certain net worth bands that they're focused on within their advisors. And so they're wanting to make sure that the calendars and availability that they're displaying to the client is going to be a best match based upon that. They also have requirements where the meetings need to be booked in a compliant manner and attributed to records in Salesforce. And so I'm just reiterating Ryan's point earlier, where we have different sets of not only attribution data that we're pulling in using things like UTM parameters, but because we already have the integration set up between the calendar and Salesforce, once that meeting gets booked, it's automatically also going to get reflected in Salesforce, which is an important piece to it as well. So I'm going to show you how this looks today on their site so that you can get another idea for how this can be implemented. And as you probably know, there's different branding pieces that can be applied, the application as well. And so I'll show you, this will look a little bit different when we display the screen here. Okay, so on the screen here, you should be able to see that on this particular website, we have the embedded screen for Let's Connect to a Financial Advisor. I can come here and I can select the state. I'll just select, let's see, we'll select one from the top here. And then we're going to choose the language barrier, and then we're going to submit that. And what's going to happen is it's going to go and again, match that calendar availability where it's going to analyze the criteria. It's going to bring up the particular advisor that matches to that criteria and check their availability. Once that availability is displayed, then it's going to show the same pill capability where they could then select an available time that's available for that individual. And then it's going to find that match to the advisor. So you can see here, it has all of the branding and information that would apply to your website and use case here inside of the window that's displaying on the screen. The calendar invite really starts the workflow off, but it's not the finish line. So when we're going through the process of getting the smart scheduler to capture all of the intent and getting that person to convert on the website, there's a lot that Cirrus can do after that meeting is booked. One of those being is that we can send a daily briefing email to the users. And what that will do is it will send them basically a summary view of all the meetings that they have for that particular day. And it's going to summarize who they're meeting with and what the system can uncover about that account and contact to be able to surface to the user to help them prepare for that call. And you get the briefings, which is all of the pre-meeting data. And then while the meeting is actually happening, it can also transcribe that meeting. So that would mean it's capturing everything that's said and allowing the user to actually act on what matters from that conversation. And then from that, because we have all the information and the notes stored from the meeting that has occurred, we can then have the system also help to draft follow-up tasks, next steps, as well as follow-up emails that may need to be sent to the attendees of that meeting following that meeting. So we're going to take a moment here and I want to show you what some of that looks like today. So when we look at the Meeting AI dashboard screen of Cirrus Insight today, what this is showing us is the calendar view. So it's basically looking at the user's calendar and it's identifying where external meetings are scheduled, looking at the domains of the attendees on those calendar events. And then it's going and it's running the pre-meeting research on those meetings. So for example, if I click on this meeting that occurred on Monday, you can see that it was colored in a dark blue, which means that research exists for that meeting. And because this is a meeting that happened in the past, there's a lot of information here that I can look at. One, on this next tab, it's gone and it's reviewed the transcript from the meeting and it's distilled it down into next steps and prioritize those next steps. So these are things that need to be done right after the meeting. These are items that were discussed as future to-dos for that meeting as well. And then I can continue to go through these tabs at the top where it gives me more detailed information about that meeting. Here, I could add manual notes. I can even dictate those in the case where maybe I'm meeting with the person in person versus virtually, and I have notes that I want to dictate about that meeting. Or it can look at the transcript and pull over the summary as you see here, but also run a speaker analysis on that call. So a speaker analysis allows you to look at who were the attendees of that call and how often did they participate in the discussion. Did our rep talk more than the customer, or did the customer talk more than the rep? Or was it more equal? What did that analysis look like from the meeting? It will also display key areas where it has pulled keynotes from that meeting and identify key pieces of information by indication of these dots. And you can click those and it will actually take you to the portion of the transcript to be able to review what that item was. This is where the actual recording of the meeting exists. So you can always go back and watch it. You can even look through the transcript here. You can download it. You can copy it. You can also share it with your customer if you wish to do, or maybe you want to share it privately. Those options are also available. And then moving back to the overview, we actually have a detailed analysis that's been performed on this meeting as well. And this is based upon a data model that we can pull for your organization specifically. So let's say, for example, you have a discovery process that you follow with your customers. We can pull that in as knowledge and it will display the analysis based upon that information. And then, of course, I mentioned that it could also go and do the follow-up items as well. So at any point in time, you can actually chat with your meeting and say, hey, write a follow-up email from this meeting. And so it's going to go and look at what happened during that meeting based upon the transcript, and it can actually draft the follow-up email for that. You can actually, from that draft, make edits if you wish to do so at that point, if you need to change anything. And then you can simply copy that and send it to the attendees as a follow-up. So one of the things that we're also introducing with our customers that we want to make everyone on this call aware of as well is that we have introduced a new concept called Cirrus Flex. Cirrus Flex is a new pricing model where everything is readily available to every customer. So every feature, you can try it for free for the extension of your renewal period. And it's based upon items that you're using and getting value out of. So we're able to actually look at what are the users actually using in the system, what value are they getting out of that, and do we then want to potentially add that as a part of our account? So the whole platform is going to show up at the door day one for all customers. You can pay per feature, not per plan. So the advantage to this is that we can look at how you're utilizing the system today, and you can select just the features that you want to use today versus having to buy extra features that maybe you're not utilizing in a plan. Or the other advantage to this is, let's say I need 20 users from this group on this functionality, and I need a different set of users on another set of functionality. So you can mix and match the functionality to those groups. And you can also pilot anything at any time. So we have a full pilot program where we can turn on as many features as you'd like, and to be able to test those out, including the ones that you've seen on the demo today. So if you're wanting to try Smart Scheduler before you make an investment in it, we can certainly offer a pilot to you for that so that you get the chance to really get your team using it and seeing value out of it before approaching a change to your plan or your features. And then from there, want to talk a little bit about, we went through a couple of things that the solution offers today, Smart Scheduler being one of those, but we do have a lot of new items coming in the pipeline. One that we're currently working on is live coaching. So I mentioned all of the transcription pieces that happen after the meeting. Live coaching would actually be something that could sit with your team during the meeting. And it's built, again, based upon your knowledge. So let's say your team's having a discovery call with a customer. We can take your discovery questions and load them as knowledge into the Cirrus system. And it would use those discovery questions during the call to say, hey, this has not been addressed yet during the call. Just want to gently nudge you to make sure that you are addressing those items throughout the conversation. So there's a lot coming soon. We have a number of things in the close and expand category as well that we are working on. And so we would be open to engaging with any of you on any of these items. In fact, I think we'll put a link to our customer growth manager's calendar in the chat for everyone today. His name is Chris Braun, and he's available to talk to any customers about any of the functionality that we reviewed today. If you want to try anything, or if you have any interest in talking about Flex, we'd be open to getting that conversation scheduled with you and with your team. So I think with that, Ryan, if we have any questions that we want to walk through with the team.
Yeah, I saw a couple come through that I think I can answer. One was, how can I implement this on my website? And honestly, it's really easy. You don't need a full integration, because in Cirrus itself is where you can copy that calendar link, and then you can just paste that as you would a regular link. So you can add that to any call to actions on your website, any of the buttons just as a URL. But that means you can also use it in emails, in ad campaigns, on social posts, because it's just a link that you're putting behind the button. It doesn't require a full-on integration with your CMS. That was one that I saw come through, and another one was just maybe a little bit more about the back end and how does it route to the correct rep. The examples that we walked through obviously match to somebody's calendar. So you're probably wondering, like, how did that happen accordingly? And within Cirrus, there's going to be a list of all the users and all the properties that you have, and you can choose which ones you want, and you can assign values to them. So for different reps, you can assign them a territory, you can assign them an industry, an employee size, whatever fits your needs essentially. And then that's how, when somebody's selecting the drop down in that form in the beginning, that's how it chooses to match correctly. So if you have multiple fields, such as maybe you're doing industry and employee size, based on the back end, where your users are and what values you assign them for those, that's how it then determines to show the availability. So it could show availability for multiple reps, and then once they select a time, it just gives the user more options to choose one.
Yeah, definitely keep pushing the questions through. If anybody has a question that we can answer for you. Any others, Ryan, that have come through there that we can answer?
Yeah, there's one more about just researched meetings and getting those emails. I think you showed a screenshot earlier, and just how often those get sent out.
Yeah, so they are designed to be daily emails, simply for the fact that it helps to prepare that rep for each of the day based upon the emails they get. There is a flag in the database or in the dashboard where you can decide whether you want them to receive those emails or not. Otherwise, you can also look at it from the calendar view, which I displayed earlier, right? So if you want to just go in and be able to look at the pre-meeting research that's being pulled together from that information, we can certainly look at it from the dashboard view as well versus the daily email. And I see that somebody had also asked, where is that pre-meeting research coming from? So the pre-meeting research comes from a couple of different sources. One of the sources, though, can be your Salesforce connection. So if you want to be able to know things like when's the last activity that we had on that particular account or contact? Do we have an open opportunity with that account or contact? What information do we know about them from your Salesforce connection? So that's one source. The other is that we can certainly use broader based just web searches to search about the contacts. And we also have a proprietary source that we can turn on and use that can do some further research on the contacts and accounts to know things like, when's the last potential round of funding have they received? What's the specific information about the contact? What's their title? What past history do they have? Is there any particular news or events that they are associated with? So there are some options in terms of the sources of that research data, which we can talk through with anybody who's interested to better understand how you would want that research to come through. Look at the questions here to see if we've had anything else. Will the live coaching integrate with our meeting platform. Yeah. Okay. The live coaching, as I mentioned, is a feature that we're currently in development on, and it will be coming soon. There's a couple of different ways that we are thinking about the live coaching tool. So one being it can sit in a side panel view alongside of the meeting. So it doesn't actually need to integrate with Zoom or Teams or Google Meet per se, because it's really just a side panel view that sort of sits with you. And that way, the attendees do not see it, so they are not nudged at all by it. It's designed to be very non-intrusive. It's something that just gently reminds the user of things that they need to be doing throughout the meeting. If you're in a highly compliant environment where you're having a meeting where certain things have to be addressed, those are the types of things that we can upload into the knowledge and make sure they're getting surfaced properly inside the meeting. Any other questions that have come up that you can see, Ryan, on your side?
Yeah, what information is captured in Salesforce when a meeting is booked? Everything that you see on the scheduling page. So it intakes your name, the email, company name, and any of those other kind of optional questions that you can have for how did you find us? What do you want to talk about on this call? Anything like that. You can also have the option to create more custom properties. So you're pretty much able to bring over any of that information that comes through in booking a meeting. You just need to have the appropriate properties to tie it to so it has a end spot in the webhook.
Yep, and any of those coming in can then be used. You can utilize any of your standard reporting in Salesforce to be able to report on those meetings that are coming through. And the nice thing is that if you have the UTM parameters coming over as fields, those can get captured in that reporting as well. We want to thank everybody for attending today's session and staying with us. Of course, as I mentioned, we are recording the session, so we'll make sure to get the recording link to everyone. Also want to offer to book some time with us if you'd like to talk about any of the functionality specifically for your org, or if you have any interest in doing pilot on anything that we discussed today. We'd love to connect with you and talk to you further about that. Thank you so much for joining.